Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Effects Loop. I'm your host, Jay Byrne. Today, we're just gonna I wasn't really sure what to make a video about, so I figured I'll just do a video on my maintenance process. Like, what I do to keep my guitars looking nice and clean and shiny and whatnot. I mean, basically, this isn't like a full setup video. This is showing you what I actually focus on to keep my guitars looking halfway decent. So I've already taken the strings off of the guitar because I didn't want to go into this with you having to watch me take strings on and off and blah 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 blah. I'll probably cut out the part where I put the strings back on the guitar. So in general, with this type of guitar, this is a Gibson style guitar. Like, it's my Epiphone Les Paul custom. All right. These things right here, I always take these off and I always wash them. I use this, which I don't have too much left, but I got a little bit left. It is Formula number 65 Dunlop guitar cleaner. It's a guitar polishing cleaner. I pretty much use this for everything. These pieces right here will come off. Because it's an Epiphone, it has these little clamps inside that kind of hold things together. And those little clamps, keep them on there. Like if you had a straight up Gibson itself, like a Les Paul or a Gibson style guitar, I don't think they make them with the clamps on them. And the older Epiphones don't have those clamps. So like these pieces will just fall off, unfortunately. Now, with the bridge gets tricky because, as anyone with these type of guitars know, we're assuming that your action is good, your neck is fine. This is just, you're comfortable with what it looks, how it's set up. You're just changing your strings and cleaning the sucker up, basically, is what you're doing. So what I would do is make sure I get as much of the grime off as I possibly can. And some people like a grimy guitar. I don't like a grimy guitar. I'm not a fan of that at all. I like my guitars to actually be clean. This piece right here, you can take it off, but then you risk messing up your action if you've got your action set the way you want it. I think for this particular setup, I'm not going to take it off. Well, it's not set up, but this particular strings, I'm just going to try to clean it like this, so that way. Yeah, I just don't want to take the whole thing off and then screw up my my action, because I get the action pretty much spot on the way I like it right now. But you can take this off. These have clips on them as well. The little pinwheels on the bottom are what set your height and your action. So you got to be careful with that though, because when you take off the bridge, you can potentially mess up the height of your action. And then you'd have to go back and adjust it again. Most people like to adjust it after after changing their strings or a setup and just make sure everything's playing well. But if you say you just want to do a quick, swap out, you just want to put new strings on, you just want to freshen the guitar up because it's a little grimy, maybe, because they do get grimy. You just want to, you might not want to touch that. These are like gold painted or whatever pickups. They're not real gold, obviously. They're like gold, like fake gold plating or something like that. These things get gross looking after a while. And some people like that look, that tarnished look. I am not a fan of it. I like them to look shiny, I think they look a lot nicer when they're nice and shiny. I personally, I like it when my guitars look clean. I like them, because I have nicer looking guitars. I think these guitars look pretty nice. Especially this and the 335 look really nice. And they really, really shine when they're clean, Doesn't have any effect on the playability or anything like that, but they shine when they're clean. Right now, typically speaking, if this was a regular ABR bridge and it wasn't clipped on, when I tip this thing over to clean the back part, it would fall. But it won't fall because it is actually Ooh, watch out. I have a very small little table over here. I'm kind of squeezed in a corner trying to do this stuff. I usually do it over here, but I don't usually have a camera in front of me, and I'm not usually squeezed in the corner as much. Just wiping all this stuff down because it starts to get this, it gets this grimy feel after a while that I am just not a fan of. Like I hate it when I pick up a guitar and it feels like I'm, you know, picking up something old from a garage or something like that, you know? That just doesn't, it's not my thing. I would say that while you're at it, since you're here and you're changing your strings, you're doing whatever, I always like to check, I always check screws, bolts, that kind of stuff, you know. And I don't know if you'll notice, I have a very mishmashed collection of like tools here that I use, but they work for what I'm doing. This is probably what it's like for most people, because most people probably don't have these expensive guitar cleaning kits. These are usually pretty tight. They don't move. But occasionally, you know, you don't change the strings for a little while, and you go to clean it up. Whoop, yeah, don't want to strip it. And it'll, you know, yeah. It'll need a little bit of tightening. These are all really, and you know, if you've got one screw that you say you go to tighten and it kind of still spins a little bit, you know, get it till it's tight and then just kind of leave it alone. Because, you know, on these cheaper guitars, even on some of the more expensive guitars, sometimes, yeah, you get like these, like almost like strip screws. Usually I change it every couple of months. Well, I like to change my strings every like 1 or 2 months. Sometimes, you know, they don't get played for a while. They don't get changed right away. This is just a, you know, socket wrench. And what I'll do is I'll go through like these right here, give them a little tweak. I mean, I can do it by hand. I don't even need to connect it to the wrench because I don't want them so tight that I'm going to strip them out or hurt them. I just want to make sure that they're still tight into the body. And honestly, everything on this guitar is tight right now. My input jack is the same way. The input jack is down here. I'm going to give it a little, see, the input jack sometimes gets loose, but you got to be careful with the input jack, because if you turn it a little bit too much, then it'll start to spin and it spins inside the body. I got that pretty tight right now. That input jack is tightened. Just gets just a little bit loose. It's not like crazy loose or anything. This, I'm just going to tighten up the strap holders, which are pretty good at this point. Clean it up. You could, if you wanted to, take the back panel off of this and spray it with like some deoxit or something like that. You could spray this with a little bit of deoxit to kind of like clean it out. I notice you do this every once in a while, it kind of cleans it out, and then sometimes it'll get to a point where that's not going to work for you, but it's not a big deal. So, all right, so for my neck, this is an ebony board right here. So you can condition it, basically, is basically what you should do. I'll use this basic cleaner crap. Just put it on, give it a nice rub. And it looks good, cleans it off. Just get the basic grime off of the frets. And this is what I do every single time I change strings. Every single time I change the strings. So, yeah. Now, before we spray this thing, I want to show you, I got these things, and I've talked about these in the past. These little micro mesh pads, they're actually kind of filthy, but they get this like metal crap on them. They're really fine. This is like really fine. It's like 1500 or 1200 grit sandpaper. It doesn't do a heck of a lot. But what I like to do with them is this. Just run them over the frets. Just lightly. You don't even have to be too crazy about it. Like, if your frets are okay, they don't need a lot of work like this. My frets are fine. I'm just polishing them. It's just a way to polish the frets. So I use these little like micro mesh pads to polish the frets. You can go with a higher grit if you want to. Honestly, I'm literally just wiping the grime off is all I'm really doing. And it seems to do pretty well. Like, because I mean, when I'm done, I can look at them and they'll be shiny. I mean, I can tell they're looking shinier already. If you have any nubs on the end like this, you can kind of go up and down the end like this with it. Just be careful of your paint and your binding and stuff. if you don't want to make a mess out of that. But this is such fine, it's barely even sandpaper that you can't even feel it. So now what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you, because we're almost about to the point where we're going to put the strings back on. And that's kind of the end of this video here. I'll show you that. This is more about just the maintenance of the actual guitar body and what you do. I mean, yeah, you know how to change strings, I would hope. And if you don't, I mean, there are plenty of videos out there on how to change your strings and whatnot. I just wanted to show you what I do to keep my guitars clean and shiny and looking good. Nothing crazy. This right here is like a, and it doesn't say it on this one, but I think it was like an Ernie Ball cleaning cloth that came in a kit. I got a whole bunch of them. And honestly, I just wipe them, make them shiny. I put a little bit of that cleaning, that body cleaning solution. I don't even use a lot of it. I use just a little bit of it, just enough to kind of get the grime off, you know? Get the guitar feeling nice, so that it's nice and slippery and it feels good to play, you know? Yeah. I think we're okay. I think I'm being a little obsessive about it now. I think we're doing good. Okay, so this is what I would do now. Now what I would do, this stuff I've had for a long time. Fretboard 65, it's like this lemon oil stuff that comes that you get, okay? Now what I'll do is I don't go crazy with this lemon oil stuff, but you know, rub it into the neck. You squeeze the bottle and you rub it on. Alright? It gets a little goopy. It's with the ebony board, it's shinier, so it doesn't like, it lives a little bit more of a, I don't know, I want to say a mess, but it gets goopier, and I don't even think I have to squeeze this anymore. I got a lot on here. Just do this. Now you want to let that sit for about 10 minutes or so. So we're going to let that sit. We're going to take a little break from the video. We'll come back and we'll finish it after that. Okay, so we're back. Now, this lemon oil has been sitting for a little bit now, so it's soaked in good enough. I like to keep an older, like kind of more beat up rag around that I can use to wipe the lemon oil off afterwards, because it can be a bit messy. There's a lot of, I put up quite a bit on here this time. Ugh, it's coming off. But there's a little bit on the goopy side. So what you want to do is you want to go down, you want to, like I like to get as much of this oil off as humanly possible. Carefully, of course, because you don't want to go messing anything up. But you can very easily get the oil on other things of the guitar, and I usually have to wipe down stuff afterwards. So this, like me personally, at one point in time I had like 7 guitars. Alright, that was, I think, the most that I ever had. I had 7 electrics specifically at one point in time, and I ended up selling off some of those guitars because as much as I love having a bunch of guitars, it becomes a project to take care of them. Like, just think about what I'm doing right here and doing this to every single guitar that you own. The more that you have, the more you actually have to deal with. Or, I mean, if you want to deal with it, some people just hang them on their wall and never touch them, and they turn into these disgusting, mucky, muddy, icky feeling things, but that's not the way that I roll, I guess you could say. But this is looking pretty good right now. But this, I mean, I love the look of this fretboard after you've done this. It looks really nice. And see, once I've gotten the goopy part off, I can use the better rag. This rag is a little bit better at just like wiping it down in general. I got a little bit of the oil, the lemon oil on the pickups over here, so I gotta be careful. The stuff kind of goes everywhere. But you gotta just, you know, work it out. But it looks really nice once you've done it. I mean, it makes the guitar look like brand new. And it shines and looks pretty, and yeah, I don't know. I love the look of these guitars when they look nice and clean and new, you know what I mean? But as I was saying about the actual of having 7 guitars. It's a lot of work to maintain just 7 guitars. Some of these like YouTubers you see with like tons of guitars, I mean it's a freaking full-time job just to maintain these guitars, and they're probably not maintaining them all to the best, you know. A trick that I will do, I'm not going to put the strings on in this video because you don't really need to see me putting strings on. You can watch a million other videos. This was more about cleaning the guitar, the maintenance and the tightening up, and getting it looking spiffy. Okay, the rest of it you can kind of figure out. But in general, what I will do, this is my preferred pack of strings. I use 10 through 46, the green pack or any ball. That's my preferred gauge. I used to use 9s all the time, but I've actually found that I like the feel of 10s. They're a little stiffer, there's a little bit more meat to them, and you get a bit more of a bang to your sound, you know. But what I'll usually do is I'll just show you this part really quick, is to get the strings on easy. What's nice about a Gibson style guitar is that you got this like bridge piece that goes in the end. So you can literally just run all your strings through there. Like that's what I would do. Like I'll just put all the strings through there, pop it back on the thing, and then, you know, one at a time, get my strings set up. Cut them, do all that fun business, and you're good to go after that. So, oh. But yeah, I'm gonna get this sucker restrung up, close you out with some playing so you can hear a nice, cleanly restrung, nice and twangy and pretty sounding Epiphone Les Paul. And I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope it gave you an you know, I figure not every single one of my viewers is a seasoned pro. Like, some of these are new people that are just not used to the whole process. So, you know, this is what I do to keep my guitars looking pretty. So that they actually look nice on camera, they look nice when I play them. When you pick up the guitar and you play it, people go, ooh, that's nice. You know, because if it's all gunky and gross and old, it just doesn't impress the same way. So if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so when I've got a new video, you'll know about it. I usually post videos once a week. Please leave some comments below. Give me some tips and tricks, maybe some of your ideas on how you keep your stuff clean, some of the little tips and ideas on what you do with your guitars. I don't know, it's a simple basic concept in the video today, but I thought it would be an interesting one, and I thought it'd be something that some of you out there might learn something from. So, I'm Jay Byrne, this has been the Effects Loop. See you next time.